How's it going, guys? Today, I'm going to show you how the dies work on a reloading press. I will load some pistol ammunition and just kind of give you an idea how each station on a press works. This is a progressive press. You may have a single stage press, which would be the same thing, only you'd be doing one at a time, all of the cartridge, one step, and then you would change your dies and do all the cartridges the next step, and so on. But we'll be working on this press, which is a Dillon 550B. Okay, so what we have here is your brass. When you shoot, your brass expands to a size that's larger than it was before you shot it because of the pressures that are created. So what you're going to do with this decapping die and resizing die is you're going to put it in here. Let me get my hand around the lever here. Trying to stay out of the way of the camera. You're just going to bring it up, and there's a pin on here, and when you bring it up into this die, it's going to put that brass back to its original shape, and it's going to knock the primer out. You probably heard that. Now when you bring it back down, you'll see down here on this machine, there's a primer feeder here, and it's going to move back into place. And the old primer falls out into that bin, and you're going to get down here, and you're going to press forward, and that's going to put the new primer in. So what you have now is your case resized with the new primer. That's your decapping and resizing die. That's all that does. Then you take this, and you'll move it over to the next station. Now this is your powder, drop, die, and flaring die. This powder funnel here has a little bevel on it there. Now when this comes up, it'll go over here, and it'll just hit this bevel, and that'll open up the mouth of the case just a little bit, so you can rest that bullet in there at the next step. And up here, you have your powder, and this is your powder bar. It measures a certain amount of powder. There's an adjustment on here, and you will lift this up. It will go on that funnel, and you'll see this is operating here, this lever. It'll drop the charge into the bullet, or into the case, I'm sorry, that's not a bullet. And then it'll come back down, and you will have your charge in there. Now we can weigh this charge on the scale, which I'll do here. We have it set for 5 grains. And that one weighed heavy. So what we'll do is we'll redo our charge. I've been playing with this a lot, so it might set up the charge if you're not doing it the same way every time. Weigh that again. And that's much better. We have 5 grains. It might be off by 1/10, but that's okay because that's a lower charge for this round anyway. So that's how that works. So one more time we'll put a charge in there. Okay, now our charge is in the case. You're going to move it over. And what you're going to do is, this is the reason I have this light here. Your third die is your seating die. You're going to check in that case and make sure that the powder is in it. There's a charge. You want to make sure it's not double charged, or that it's not charged at all. Because if you have too much of a charge in there, then you could have far too high a pressure. And if you have too low a charge in there, or not enough of a charge or no charge at all, you get a squib load, which the bullet will end up in the barrel. And if you shoot another round with a bullet in the barrel, you could blow your gun up because of very excessive pressures, which is a bad thing for everyone concerned. So now that it's hard to see, but the mouth of this cartridge, or this case, is flared just a little bit so that I can see this bullet in here, and I'm wearing a glove because I'm dealing with lead bullets. Now it'll sit just right on top of there, nice and easy. That's all there is to that. Now when you lift it up into this die, all it's going to do is push that bullet down. You'll feel a little bit of resistance. You'll see that the bullet's being seated. Go all the way up and come down, and now your bullet is seated. Now to set that, there are ways to set this die, but we'll go into that into more detail in some other videos. So your bullet's ready to go. Almost. And now that you bring this to the last station, what you have up here is your crimping die. Now all this does is it takes the top of this casing, just the very, very top, and it squeezes it just a little bit. And the purpose of that is, being that this is an automatic cartridge for a semi-automatic rifle, or semi-automatic pistol, 45 ACP. When this loads into the chamber, it's going to hit that feed ramp, and what the crimp does is try to assure that this bullet doesn't slip backwards, which would cause it to either feed unreliably or cause higher pressures in the cartridge due to a smaller amount of space inside. So all that does is just put that little crimp on there, and it's really, you're not going to see it with the naked eye very easily. This is a taper crimp on certain cartridges, like old 45, 70, 38 special cowboy type loads. There might be a crimp groove in your bullet, and then you would have a roll crimp, which is a little bit more of an exaggerated crimp. But since this goes in an automatic, the cartridge headspace is on the mouth of the case. This actually hits the end of the chamber, and that's how that sits. So you don't want to roll that too much, otherwise the cartridge will go too far into the barrel. And once you've made that crimp, you are done. So that's all there is to it. So you have your decapping resizing die, you have your powder drop die and flaring die, and then your seating die, which simply just pushes the bullet down to where it needs to be, and then your crimping die. And that's how everything works. Now, certain rifle cartridges won't require a crimping die. You can use them, but they're not always necessary. You can use a crimping die if you want the best consistency for, say, target shooting or whatever. But most bottleneck cartridges like the 223 and 308, etc., they will just, you can just sit them in there, and a lot of rifle die sets don't come with that crimp die, but you can do it. It's personal preference. A lot of people like it. A lot of people don't find it necessary at all. In a semi-auto, it's probably a little more recommended than a bolt gun because they're being slammed into the chamber a lot harder than you would with a typical bolt gun where you're a little smoother with Always make sure you check your charge when you get to that station, or if you're loading your cartridges on a single stage press, you'll have them in a tray. You'll charge your case and you put it back in a tray. On this one, you want to check every time after you charge that, before you pull your bullet in, you'll want to look and check for that charge and weigh it, look at it, get familiar with how much of that casing that powder takes up. That way you know, hey, there's a lot more in here, you overcharged, or hey, there's not enough here, or there's none at all. You always want to check the charge. That's supremely important. You definitely need to keep an eye on your charge. Your bullet seating depth and everything are important, because if you see a bullet too far, your pressures will increase. And depending on what type of powder, what type of caliber, that's more or less with certain things. But your powder charge is very, very important. And when you're doing this, if you're cranking out rounds, I suggest you wear eye protection, and a lot of people recommend hearing protection. Primers can go off during reloading. It is rare. Never happened to anyone I know, but it has happened to people, and I've heard some stories on some reloading forums. So it's always best to be cautious. You know, err on the side of caution, they say. Now, there's no need to rush when you're reloading. You're better off not rushing. Don't have any TVs on. Don't have your kids in here, unless they're old enough and you're teaching them. That's a different story. But don't have any distractions. You're dealing with something that could be potentially very dangerous, extremely dangerous. And you don't want to take any chances when you're doing this. It may not blow up in your face here, but it might blow up in your face when you're shooting. So, no distractions. Alright, now we see something went a little kooky. There we go. Must have misaligned that shell. And just be safe. And when you're handling lead, it is a good idea to use gloves. And always wash your hands afterwards. Now, you can go online and find good reloading data for different loads. This particular powder, I use a certain amount. You saw me weigh it, but every powder is different. What one powder is 5 grains for a charge, another maybe 3 or 8 or 6. So no powder is exactly the same. So you need to do your research, get some reloading manuals, and start with minimum charges, because your gun is different. Your experience is always going to be different. So you want to be careful. You don't want to start with medium or maximum loads by any means, because there are so many variables in reloading. So it's the type of thing where you just play it safe. You don't take chances with something like this, especially if you're new. If you're new at this, you really want to listen when people tell you you can never be too safe when you're reloading. Really can't. So we'll do a little more on this press another time, and we'll do a little more on each individual die and how to set them up. And that's my alarm saying I've got 3 primers left, which should be enough. And that'll be that, since that alarm is horribly annoying. Gentle on those primers. Alright, where are we? Now see, I've been distracted. I need to check everything. I need to make sure that I haven't done anything here. So I need to set my bullet, and off I go. So have fun with it. Be safe. Any questions, just put them in the comments below, or go to some online forums for reloading. And with anything you find online, take it with a grain of salt. You generally, for loads, you want to check a manufacturer's website, manufacturer of the powder, or the manufacturer of the bullets, or whatever loading manual you get will have some sort of recipe in it. And even they vary. You'll find that one book will give you a very different load than another, and you need to be careful. So get a couple books and have fun with it, but be very safe with it. And that'll be the last round we put in here. And we'll get final crimp. And we're out. And that's everything. And that's everything. And you'll find in the end, you'll have a cartridge that's all finished. Get it in some light. I don't know if there's too much light. But you'll find you can make some really good ammo, and you'll save some money doing it. So everybody have a good time, and we'll see you again. Oh, hi. Pick 45 here. All right.